been on cue.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pundit. My name is Scott Morganroth of Motor City Mad Mouth, and we are here live to entertain you on a Thursday night. Don't know what the Thursday night football game from I hear it's Carolina against Tampa. Don't matter. We prefer that you're with us anyway. We have our normal crew tonight. George Eichhorn to my right. Welcome
Good
back.
to be back with you guys. Happy to be on the show.
And we got Denzel Snapper.
Hey, I'm scared of deep water when we're fishing tonight, so one of y'all might have to come save me if I fall off the boat.
Yeah, if I fall off the boat, I'll probably
Scott?
send Stark's major meal. I prefer not to. I just got done eating fish. All right.
See?
Listen, I can't have a laugh even though I'm finally on iced tea. And I had all my caffeine earlier. All right. Mr. Pundit himself.
Denzel, you're a sniper. You're not supposed to be scared of anything.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I can shoot the fish from, from the boat so I won't have to risk getting pulled in the water.
Well, when you go out to food restaurants, at least you know they're frying the fish or boiling them or whatever. But I know this is a very fishy subject, so we'll go ahead and continue on. All right. So it is the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the Buffalo Bills. And with that said, okay, let's talk about the fact that Pundit is being broadcast around the world. How do you like that globe that we have a Pundit to the right as well? The audio version of Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Go in the chat room. That's one way to get in here. Another way is send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling's behind the scenes, and of course, she's producing tonight as well. My book, which is a media book, is Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. Boy, it's sounding good more and more every day, especially as it gets close to publishing real soon. Looking forward to having this out there on Amazon as well as our other access providers. All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to turn the microphone and the red carpet over to Denzel Sniper. Sounds like a line I know from some other guy that has no social media presence, but I could still steal his lines. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Denzel. Take her away.
All right. Let's see here. Jacob knows what I'm talking about here. I was making one last move, and there we go. My team is set. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to get started with our pundit points. Before that, of course, just Scott said all the good stuff. Hit that like and subscribe button to South Florida Tribune. Also, the Sideline Sports. We've got everything going every day of the week. You name it, we got it. So with that being said, pundit point. So my pundit point. So Colts owner Jimirsay wants a rule change. He's calling for the change, a replay of all calls in the final 2 minutes of the game. Probably obvious information to a lot of us that watch football, right? The referees admitted that in last week's loss to the Cleveland Browns, that they had made officiating mistakes in the wake of said loss. Namely, there was an illegal contact called that nullified a sack fumble, which would have shut the door. Then on the very next play, there was a defensive pass interference in the end zone that set up the 1st and goal on the 1 and the Kareemhunt go-ahead touchdown. Both calls were on cornerback Darrell Baker Jr. Now, between the gauntlet, a little bit of Sports Arena maybe, and other platforms where I've discussed sports, I've said some very colorful things about Colts owner Jimirsay, okay? But even in this one, damn if I got to give the devil his due, because he is 1,000% correct. We all have been critical of the officiating. It's not even, I think it's barely midway to the season, and the officiating has been horrid, and at some point in time, it's like, when is a change going to happen? The fact that calls cannot be challenged in the last in the last 2 minutes of a game, I mean, it's egregious. And some of these games have been decided by this very non-rule bylaw or whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to agree with them on this one. It may be once in 5-6 years I regret it. Come to find out, it's the first time I ever agreed with the man. But yes, there definitely needs to be a change in this or rule or non-rule. But I want to swing it over to Jacob. And what's your pundit point, sir?
This is going to be a unique pundit point tonight because I'm going to be putting Mike Tomlin, Glorilla, and the Iowa football team in the same thing. So, did you see? I was going to say this. Did you see Glorilla? You know who that is, right? Right, Jay?
Yeah, she's a hip hop artist.
Did you see her in Mike Tomlin's hallway at the Pittsburgh?
I didn't, but that should be an interesting photo. I mean, it's odd, right? Like Glorilla and then Mike Tomlin. Like,
yeah, she's from Memphis, so she was a Steelers fan, like a lot of Memphis was. She was absolutely cheesing to meet this guy. You should have seen it. She loves herself as Steelers, and she loves Mike Tomlin. You know how cool Mike Tomlin is. You know how cool he is. He's chill. He's everything. And, of course, he did the dad thing and called her young lady.
Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm.
And he's just the dad, and he does that, but he's just cool. And she was hyped. Like, she was starstruck.
Nice.
And he is just this cool dude. And this is where I'm bringing Iowa football into this. And the reason I'm saying this part. Iowa last week got hosed in the game against Minnesota because Cooper DeJean decided he was doing this, trying to get everybody away so he could run it for the touchdown. He ran it for the touchdown. They said it would call it for a fair catch.
Fair catch, yep.
Called it fair catch. Here's the truth to everyone. And I thought they absolutely got hosed. I mean, that was there. But here's the thing. Cooper DeJean was about to save them again. They had 2 yards in the second half. He was about to save them. And you want to know who I guarantee kept that from happening? Television. Phone call. Why that? Because it took so long for that to happen. So long to get the answer. Then they said it was a fair catch. Television. I'm not saying whether it's fair or not. Here's the truth to all this. They wouldn't have lost another game the rest of this year. A 1 win going for the B1G title on national TV. And even if they would somehow get there, go for the Final Four. You want to know how many TV people would be scared of a 6-3 halftime?
Truth.
Because offense is pitiful. It's awful. Brian Ferentz cannot do a thing on offense. They can't get anybody. They can't throw the ball. They're all right at running, but they have no movement. And that is the opposite of what television wants. So if you want to know what this world is about, and I brought up with Tomlin and everything like that, the world wants cool. The media wants cool. Ohio State and Michigan is cool. Just being honest. Ohio State and Iowa isn't. So if Iowa got 2, we had 4 losses last year, but they've had 2 losses for a bunch of years. If they want to get themselves in, we're getting the people from the West Coast in these places. In the B1G, time you better start getting cool. You can't have Cooper DeJean being your only cool guy and saving you every single week if you want to get somewhere. You got hosed, yes, but television had the reason for that.
And you know what? Kirkferentz has actually fielded a decent to above average squad during, in his time at Iowa. They're not a bad football team. They've been to a few Big Ten title games, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
But you're right. I mean, it's Iowa. You're in the middle of the Midwest. Your neighbors, like what, Nebraska? And all they think about is green plains and cornfields. It's like nothing exciting out there, right? Like, that's all there to do is play football. You know,
exciting team. And if your team isn't there, if Cooper DeJean is your only excitement,
right?
And that's the thing. If he's your only excitement, you are not going to get. TV's not going to get anywhere. It's a theory, but it's pretty good one considering they're not going to lose again the rest of the year. Look at their schedule. So they're not going to want one-loss Iowa with that chance.
And you know what? And before I swing it to George, I'll say this much. And you know what, Scott and George, you've spent way enough time in media to know what I'm talking about. East Coast, West Coast bias. Iowa is not sexy. Los Angeles is sexy. New York is sexy. Miami is sexy. You're right there in South Florida, Scott. Ohio State, like you said, is sexy. Historical powerhouse. Iowa is not. They're going to have to work 3 times harder than those other ones I just mentioned if they want to get some recognition and get a little things sent their way. But I want to turn over to Uncle George here and see what you got for the Pundit points. What's the good word, my good man?
Well, the good word is that Commissioner Silver promised us a special announcement. I've been waiting for this for days and days. Anybody that follows the NBA, he says, I'm going to have something to say about that NBA All-Star Game format, which, by the way, is coming to Indianapolis in February. I did see one of the games down there, an All-Star Game, and who knows, maybe I'll even try to get into this one. But the big announcement, wow, he's going back to the Eastern Conference versus the Western Conference.
Sure is.
How exciting. But hey, anything that the NBA does, of course, that's got to be earth-shattering news to all of us. But no more Team LeBron and Team Hardaway, whatever they had all those years. They tried different players to pick to pick the roster, and it just kind of fizzled out. Hey, anywhere you cut it, okay, it's boring. Okay, 162 to 160 the final score, or 158 to 157. I mean, yeah, that's exciting. A lot of points are being scored, but of course nobody's playing defense. But you know what? I gotta throw him a little bone on this one, because the other format was just wearing down. It was wearing down the fans. It was wearing down the media. And the fact that he went back to East versus West kind of reminds me of the baseball All-Star Game, which had so much going for it. Remember when the American League and the National League would not see each other until the World Series? You wouldn't play that. You wouldn't play each other, in the 2 leagues unless you got to the World Series, with the exception, obviously, of spring training and, of course, the All-Star Game, where the National League took on the American League. So I don't know. I mean, Silver's trying his best to put his best spin on this one coming up in February, but East versus West is his big announcement. Take it or leave it. I guess I'll take it this time. I'll see if it brings any more excitement.
I mean, it's the part of tradition that you stick, because the Pro Bowl was always AFC versus NFC.
Yep.
The NHL hockey is always Eastern Conference, Western Conference.
Not necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
Well,
that one's changed a lot, Dan.
Traditionally,
it has. It did. No, traditionally is what I'm saying. Traditionally, Eastern Conference. I know there's been like a USA versus World kind of format thing that they've had going, but traditionally Eastern Conference, Western Conference, and then in Major League Baseball, AL versus NL. And then you got this whole team LeBron and you got teammates going against each other and stuff. And listen, now here's one thing. I am all for the whole, you score some amount of points and then you raise enough money to a charity. That's always great. I say they should keep that, but go back to East versus West. I mean, we're ready for it to go back.
They're not going to do the scoring by quarters and that. They're going more traditional 12-minute periods too. They're not going to do that scoring thing you just mentioned.
Okay, sounds good.
At least this year. Let's
see how it is. All right. Well, last but not least, the Motor City Man Mouth himself. What you got?
Well, number one, I'll take David Stern over Adam Silver all day long. Period.
Amen.
There you go. But that isn't what I'm going to talk about.
Amen, brother.
At long last, the Miami Dolphins are planning cornerback, Jalenramsey, to make his return Sunday from a knee injury that he suffered this summer. Per sources, Ramsey is expected to be back on field 3 months after knee surgery with the Dolphins as they take on the New England Patriots. That's good. You know what? Jalenramsey to me is a fine player. And, it's about time that, he's playing in his home state, too. I believe he played college ball at Florida State. So I think he'll definitely be a boost to the Miami Dolphins. We'll see what they can do with it. Because right now, as I predicted last week on one of these shows, that I thought that Philadelphia was going to beat the Dolphins. And indeed, that was the case. Miami Dolphins have to show me something come, we'll just say, December and January before I'm a firm believer, but this is a good step with Jalenramsey about being ready to play. So more power to him.
Always glad to see. I think football is a little bit better, and especially defense. Whoever defense is on, whenever a healthy Jalen Ramsey is on the field. Well, that is our pundit points, everyone. And now we're gonna go on to our first topic. So, so the case of Sarah Katz. She was a 21-year-old woman who died from drinking a charged lemonade from panerabread. So basically, a little bit about her. She had a pre-existing heart condition called LTQS, long 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 TQ syndrome, which basically causes sudden heart arrhythmias and irregular heartbeats. She was diagnosed at age 5, and it was controlled and managed by medication and limiting caffeine. She drank the charged lemonade, went into cardiac arrest, and unfortunately died after being transported to the hospital. She may have believed that it was regular lemonade, as a matter of fact. And as of right now, there's a wrongful death suit filed against the restaurant chain. So, in alluding to the title, I'm going to share a short story before I pass it to Jacob. And that is, it's right because on my first deployment in 2008 to UAE, I worked night shift out there. And whenever you're working around the clock job, whether you're military or police, firefighter, or something like that, you work night shifts and you always have some type of substance that's keeping you up. That's legal, mind you, Well, there was one kid, and fortunately he was okay, but he ended up in the medical tent because he got a caffeine overdose. He drank like 2 of those Monster BFCs and was on Stacker 2 at the same time. And so like it's like, man, and anyone that's ever worked like around it, like Scott, you've been up and down the road and spent many sleepless nights, so I know but with that being said, you do have to watch yourself. You do have to be cognizant of your health and everything, because there's so much stuff. And don't get me wrong, like they're very enjoyable, but also at the same time, if you have a condition, if you have diabetes, if you got a heart condition, anything to where that can affect it, you may want to limit those or just even cut those out and find another alternative. They can be addicting. They are. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that just keeps people drinking them like crazy, but you do have to worry about your own health in this one. It is very serious, obviously serious enough to where it took the life of this young woman. So I want to swing it over to Jacob and get your thoughts and ideas on this.
And something, it says there might have been thought that it was lemonade. Okay, that's what I'm saying with this. But let's say this for a second, maybe or maybe not. If she did, maybe she tried it. Who else had it? Just say it's not her for a second. This is the thing I'm making the example of. Just for a second here, okay? Your kids. This isn't. You're not. You were on duty. You were on duty, Jay. You were on duty. You had to keep wired. You had to. It's understandable. These are kids. Their thing is they may be thinking of finals. They may be thinking of anything else, but they don't have to. And they are kids, and they have energy naturally. They do.
Right.
But they do. But here's the thing with this also that we're not teaching in health. Not many. Some may, but the highest end of it do. Sleep. Your body needs to be up a certain amount of time, and it needs rest. You're getting these kids. A lot of them were there's ones I've heard that were in Asia that were staying up all night, jacking themselves on energy drinks from playing video games. They'll stay up for 3 days, then they die. And it's like, where have we? Then I will go to it. I do not deny I've had them. I will drink them. I will do not deny it. I love Celsius, but Celsius is a no sugar. It is a no sugar, and it does not keep you jittery. And I don't have to go any farther with it. And if I don't have it that day, I don't have a jitters or what like some people would get. I don't drink Monster. I don't drink Red Bull.
Yeah.
And I have such the lowest end version of that drink that it's like I look at these other drinks that are out there when I go to a Quick Trip, and it is always they always have like the combination for $4 or something, like Rockstar and donut, Rockstar and mac and cheese, anything that's not good.
Yeah.
It's not Celsius that like melts your weight off or anything like that. Always the worst. But it's like that's what we're having a problem with. We're having an addiction to energy drinks from people that don't need it.
Yeah.
They're wanting to stay up. They're wanting to do this, but we're not teaching sleep. We're not teaching proper health on things. Maybe the athletes, but why everyone? Because all these students that feel pressure to have to go get the straight A's, that's the fault of, that might be fault of family, that might be fault of themselves. But I can promise you this. Your grades will be better if you learn sleep and proper energy.
And time management, yep.
And time management with it. And that's the time management is not what kids are taught. I wasn't taught it. Hell, I wasn't taught it at 30. I mean, just for myself. It's like, we've got to teach all of these things because it'll save lives.
Absolutely. And might I add, now mind you, I'm down there serving with guys that are the same age as this woman when she died, And here's another thing as well. She paid for this drink. Down there in the desert, like, everything's free. Yeah. Everything's free. Just go to the chow hall. However many energy drinks you want, however many candy bars you want, however many Gatorades or whatever, like, everything is free. You can literally go there and load up. You want a candy bar in the middle of the night? Sure, just wake up and go get it. You want an energy drink? Well, just go get relief and then just go walk to the chow hall. You can get 3 or 4 of them and take it, So we were having to constantly tell troops, like, hey, you got to watch yourself. You know what I mean? It's tempting because you're not paying for it, you know? They took care of us down there. We were in a hostile fire zone, Like, they took care of us. Like, the U.S. government spent, like, $4 million a year on water for the Department of Defense, like in the desert. So they just had that kind of resources. But when I say this, and this is to my brothers and sisters in arms, is yes, you have to, take care of yourself. That temptation is going to be there because that monster's just sitting right there in the chow hall and you could just grab it and go, So, but I'm going to swing it over to George and get your thoughts about this incident.
Well, first of all, my sympathy to her loved ones, herself, obviously her friends and family. That's terrible news. And you guys have nailed it, man. I mean, we really, really got to take a look at this industry. And not too many people are right now. Okay, you go into any party store, you walk into a gas station, you walk into a convenience store, they're all there, all loaded up for you. And there's just no self-control. There's no direction, like you were saying earlier, about coaches and parents and teachers and doctors and nurses, whoever in the medical field. These things have to be talked about, but nobody wants to talk about them. We all know that there's addictions to all kinds of things. There's addiction to pot. There's addiction to cigarettes. There's addiction to energy drinks and to beer, whatever. And what's happening is this kind of like slid under the radar for a long time. We had Gatorade came out. Oh, Gatorade's great. And I know I'm comparing apples and oranges here, but listen to me. Gatorade was great. Athletics embraced Gatorade. Oh, yes. And then we throw it all over the coach after we win the big game. It was a fun thing. All kinds of different flavors of Gatorade now. But then these energy drinks just, bam, went right onto the scene in America and elsewhere. And you're right. I mean, you guys are right. I mean, they're so plentiful. They're so available to the children and young adults that, it's become too much of an epidemic and too much reliance on them. And I agree with what you said, Jacob. I mean, we all could use more sleep. I could use more sleep, but all the sleep patterns have totally been upset by these drinks. Those are obviously that are taking them a lot or drinking them a lot. I've got a 14-year-old granddaughter. I worry about her. I mean, she's, she likes to have those drinks once in a while, but we all have to take a look at it and try to learn, educate ourselves. And then from that point on, as whether it's a parents or grandparents or whether it's school or teaching, we have to educate the children, obviously, along the way too, and the young adults. And coaches have that responsibility as well. It's just something that has just exploded onto our scene and on our map. And we have to try to get the facts out that these are loaded with sugar, that these things could destroy you or could be contrary to what medical condition you're currently having. So all of that being said, again, I'm sorry about this, that it has to happen to this young lady, but it's a wake-up call, I think, for all of us.
Should be a wake-up call, absolutely. Go ahead, Jake. I'm sorry.
Real quickly, I will say this. Right now, I weigh about 212 to 215. At my highest, I was 238. And you want to know what came from? It came from I was Ubering full time. And I did do Monster, but just one a day because you just keep this. But that's so dang much sugar. And I sat in there. And the only reason I didn't get higher than 238 is because I drank a lot of water. But do you want to know what helped me lose the weight little by little by little? I moved into a new place, and it was during COVID time and everything. I never locked down, don't get that wrong. But I was out and I did the thing. I slept 8 to 10 hours sometimes. Maybe 7 hours, 8 hours, 9, whatever. I started getting sleep. Sleep got my body pattern back.
Yeah.
And before, when I was Ubering full time, I'd get in at 3 in the morning and then hope I'd sleep till 9. I end up getting up about 6:30 and I'm getting back out there again. And it's like sleep gets your whole system ready, right? I mean, for building muscle, for losing weight, for the proper diet, for everything. And it's like, and when you're jacking these 4 or 5 energy drinks at a time, 3 and 4, you're staying up and it's killing your cycle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the older you get, the more you have to manage it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But lastly, I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this whole thing.
I am probably the last person that should be talking about this subject. First of all, I'm going to give it to you guys in rapid fire. When I was going to junior college back in the early 80s, I used to drink 2.5 pitchers of iced tea at Pizza Hut. And I was like 18, 19 years old back then. And then that's item number one. Have you ever been to North Carolina? Sundrop is brutal, man. And George Eichhorn saw me firsthand when I went to a DSBA party where didn't know if my legs were actually connected to my head and all that. Now, everybody remembers the show, The $6 Million Man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Lee Majors.
Yeah,
Yep.
Okay. Well, forget that. Okay. I'm the $6 billion man. Okay. They have rebuilt me 9 million times over. So between Diet Coke, Red Bull, Monster, you name it, and the fact you guys say 8 hours of sleep a day, I'll be lucky to get 16 an entire week, man. This is what it is. I am bad. I mean, bad, B-A-D, not bad. That's what you would say, pundit. Bad. I'm just bad, okay? So I'm probably, now, don't get me wrong, condolence to this little girl. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, and it's just unfortunate it happened. Now, for me to be on this show, to be talking about this, I'm the worst that should ever be talking about this because my wife gave me the name Crazy Man because I get stronger at night as I go deeper into the drive. Of course, it doesn't hurt that I can play music a little bit too, and that I just boom. Now, let alone the fact that when I went to Talladega a year ago to cover that race, what do you think happens? We're driving late. We don't even have a hotel because I got approved at the last minute. So, I went to Jacob's current state, and I went through 3 lanes faster than you can imagine, got pulled over. And you know what? I talked myself out of a bad ticket, and because I say, hey, you don't have to worry about me being intoxicated. I'll show you all the Diet Mountain Dews and Diet Cokes I got in this place. I said, do me a favor. I have a race to cover, and I have no place to stay. Let's get this thing over with here and give me the least, type of ticket you could get. And, if you don't believe me, go subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do that, too.
You did that. I was going to ask if you subscribe.
I don't know if he did or not, but he let me off the hook, and I didn't pay as much money on the fine as he should have. But at least I need to let this guy know that, hey, I'm heavily caffeinated. I've never seen anybody DUI when you have a lot of caffeine inside you. I mean, actually, he had a good sense of humor, and he was nice enough to lower the cost a little bit. I said, so he writes me up for a turn signal violation. I didn't use the turn signals instead of what could have been.
Look out.
So, this is how it goes. Life of the Motor City Badmouth on the road. Everybody, some people when they're new at traveling get homesick. I get road sick because I can't travel enough. Of course, when my doctors tell me I can't, it's another story. So I get it. It's unfortunate. I can't tell you how many times I've had Red Bulls, Monster drinks. And if you think you want a big sugar buzz, why don't you just try a Krispy Kreme donut? Those are worse.
Oh, yes.
I had a bunch of those the night before I was taking a test for the class exam doing insurance. So, and let me tell you something, those Krispy Kremes make Monster drinks and Red Bulls look like nothing, man. So I guess even though I've gone off on a little tangent, I'm probably the last person that should be talking about it because I am guilty. Let me tell you, guilty.
I understand completely. I'm just trying to get it toward the kids.
I know that. I'm trying to make light of the situation.
Oh, yeah.
That's all.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, and there's a lot of things also you'll hear. like you'll get the Grant Cardones and you'll hear all the motivators that they'll say, you don't sleep till you're dead and all that stuff. Well, you will be dead sooner if you don't sleep.
Exactly.
But you'll be dead sooner. But no, these are the things I try to bring. It's like, and I said, I do not deny Celsius. I drink it, but I'm also not addicted to it. You can get one. I'm not addicted to energy drinks. I'm not to that thing. Plus, I drink a lot of water. And the thing about it is that we, like you said, George, we're not teaching time management at all. We're not teaching what the idea with health is at all.
Right.
What the efficiency of everything. They are worried so darn bad about their final. Efficiency and studying will give them their final just fine. But you only get one life.
Well, let me tell you, I bought 6 sun drops that one night. I went through 5 of them, and I can tell you right now, I was probably, you could have launched me out of the Kennedy Space Center, the Johnson Space Center in your neck of the woods, Hans. I was a rocket that night, and Icorn saw me on the receiving end of that thing.
Yeah, I did.
The center's even more interesting. I had a Red Wings game that night, so I had to go to my Aunt Judy's to get about 2 hours a nap before I could check in my hotel. But let me tell you, I was one wired, you know what, man.
Yeah.
You're missing a radiation leak.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can educate people about my book, but I guarantee I won't be writing a book on this topic because I'm bad at it.
And you know one thing, and that's another thing I also want to bring up too, because I mean, like myself, and I'm sure, of course, you, Scott, and I'm sure you, George, as well, and then pretty soon, you, Jacob. It's the access, because like when you cover a game from the press box, once again, everything's free. All the soda you can drink, all you can eat, like everything's free. So you still have to have a level of discipline. Now we're a little older than 21, you know, but still, the name of the game is. Go ahead.
Let me take it to a new level. Now that you brought that up, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Number one, I covered 12 hours of CB races, and I covered the Rolex 24. And if you can imagine how much sugar and I had any energy drinks to get through those marathons.
Yeah, to get through that. Yeah.
I mean, those are unbelievable. I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to say it was off the tip of my tongue, and thankfully it's no longer on the tip of the tongue. It's on the show. But yeah, we're trying to cover Rolex 24 and then go out there and talk about 12 hours of Sebrings, which I ended up using as prep for me to do that other race. I mean, I'm with you all the way. I can't tell you how many M&Ms I had and all those other chocolate things that they had in there, in addition to all the caffeine that you just alluded to. Oh, my
God. Just having to stay up there, yeah. Right, we're about the halfway point of the show. We got to get on to our next topic. So, benzobrist, and Mr. Krishna here knows this man very well. So he actually started a nonprofit organization dealing with mental health in sports called championforward. He's been previously involved in 2 other nonprofit mental health organizations, and his involvement has actually inspired him to start his own, being, of course, championforward. Benzobrist himself, former Major League Baseball player. He's a 2-time World Series champion in 2015 and 2016. He was the 2016 World Series Most Valuable Player with Mr. Krishner's Cubs. So, Jacob, your thoughts on this? It's a very good thing. I love to see it whenever athletes bring up, whenever they start organizations dealing with mental health and everything, and really putting out there how important it is.
One of our former colleagues here, we say Jen, one of our former colleagues here brought up a good topic on something. One of the baseball pitchers, former from their day, like 2000s or something. You want to know what his thing was? He just shot up a neighbor. He got arrested, shot up a neighbor, and he's arrested now. And it's like, the thing about what he was saying was something like this: is championforward, we're going to be focusing on our mental health. Benzobrist's mental health was really bad, especially when his wife was just jacking him around during their divorce. So he had to be able to do something like this. And it's like, and you think about this, George and Scott both, Denny McClain, and what happened, what he was after the fact, what his deal was, you know what I'm saying? And then about Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, with everything, considering how much he was basically out of the league, you think of, those were differing reasons. Those were philosophical reasons. But what were they thinking of when they lost their job based off of their own philosophical thought process?
Yeah. Shoot, I can recall a mental health episode happening like during the middle. Do you recall? Y'all remember boxer Oliver McCall? Remember his meltdown in the middle of a match? Like that right there. And that was like on TV, But I'm sorry, man. Go ahead.
And we'll get Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons literally got he had mental, even though Ben Simmons is never going to be what he was and everything. Everybody's talking about, oh my God, he looks back. No, he still has a mental issue. He's going to be nice for the first about 10 games, and he's going to slow down again because, he just had he just had about 18 months off, truthfully. But they still haven't licked that at all. And the thing is, we're seeing that we had Simone Biles. We had all of this, and it's like we had a lot of past people. And it's like we talk about mental health issues. I brought up Denny McClain. You bring that up, and then Art Schleister with gambling. Gambling and what happened with Denny McClain and Schleister and then McClain and all of them, it was just to relax. There's pressure with being a professional athlete. They're just trying to, that's their idea of relaxing, whether it is dirty or not, dirty pool or not. It can be gambling, it could be hookers. It can, just like, addiction to women. There's all kinds of addictions out there. Remember, in the 80s was cocaine like crazy. Whether it is an athlete or a professional wrestler or anything like that. I remember Hulk Hogan's interview just recently. He talks about, to this day, 8 o'clock at night, probably about 4 days a week, he trains twice a day. That's why he still has that body. He trains twice a day because once in the morning, and then he'll get this inside of him, he'll get this turbulence because it's like 40 years, 35, 40 years, there was that turbulence where he's going out there at 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. And it's like the main event. And then, and you just came from playing cards in the locker room to going out there with 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing that. And he says he'll be watching American Idol and he'll just, and he has to, he doesn't want his wife to see it. So he goes downstairs and works out more to get that out. And it's like, how many athletes truly had that? That's a mental thing in itself. What he just brought up, that's a mental thing in itself. You've jacked yourself up all these years, being in front of crowds, being in everything. Actors do the same thing. Then you need to slow down. Sometimes they do it, jack themselves up and slow down, both with drugs. And that's the thing. That's what the thing is with mental health. We do need to really pay attention. What he's doing is great.
Yes, he is, absolutely. And it's all about finding, just that outlet, like you said. Because, not everyone has Hulk Hogan's money. Like, he's probably got like 4 gyms in his house, right? So yeah. He can just like do that. But not everybody can. Just simple stuff, y'all. Like, go take a walk. If you believe, pray. See a therapist or something, I think it's awesome what he's doing, because there needs to be more and more out there that look after men's health, and as well as women's as well. You mentioned Simone Biles. But swing on to George, and then to get your thoughts about champion forward and what benzobrist is doing.
Well, it's much needed, and I applaud him for doing this, okay? Listen, we've got a situation here with the Detroit Tigers outfielder, okay? Young man by the name of Meadows. We all know his situation. Last season, the season before, very, very severe issues involving him that he had to take a leave of absence from the Detroit Tigers after he was traded. And Al Avila made that trade to try to fill a gap in the outfield. And Meadows, of course, had a wonderful career going down in Tampa Bay. But boy, oh boy, it's been like bad luck after bad luck here in Detroit. He has so many different issues going on. They try not to talk about it in the media here. They try not to spend a whole lot of time on it. And now his younger brother, has a good shot. He played up in August and September in the big leagues with the Tigers. And I know it's got to be so hard on Parker as well as the family. But the attention that's been given is all very much needed. If you take a look at the org charts of our major sports, you will now find, besides the massage therapist, you will find counselors and psychologists on each team's payroll. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, it's needed by the players and maybe the coaches too. We're not privy to that. We don't know who all goes in for support, but the coaching staff, of course, can have issues too themselves. And second is that the way this country, the way everything's gotten so involved in everything, people are going in all these different directions, and people are stretched thin, and all kinds of mental anguish is going on in their lives, with their families or with their friends or with these temptations, these addictions that Jacob mentioned. You know, you need that. So not only on the sports scene, but you also need it in everyday life as well. And there are human resources experts at most of your big companies that can help, get you some help. And of course, if you're dealing with a family physician, that sort of thing, he or she could probably find you help too. But I applaud Ben, and because this really hits home for me with what's going on with Austin Meadows and the Tigers and what he struggled through the last couple of years. It's so sad, and I mean, even away from the fact that the Tigers did not get what they thought as far as the value of a ball player. More important is this young man's life and this young man's career. If he even has one remaining, I still hope he does. But to get the right help for him and to try to help him get through these mental anguish, and anybody else in the athletic world as well, not just him.
That we're talking about athletes who put themselves on the line for, you know, not only for our entertainment but to also make a living and everything. And that's why sometimes it bugs me whenever some people say like, oh, well, I don't feel sorry for these guys, they're getting paid, millions of dollars, they're set for life. It's like, that's still a human being. Either way you look at it, whether you broke or you rich, everyone can get the same problems you know but last thing, I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this, about benzobrist starting champion forward, doing right by the people, by his athletes.
More power to Ben. Really, all you have to sit here and do is look at mental health. Number one, sports. Okay, they go hand in hand. Now, you ready for this? When I first started this platform, I had only had the South Florida Tribune podcast only until we branched off into the amount of shows we had. But you know who I had on as our first guest ever? A guy by the name of Frank Lodato. He's a renowned sports psychologist, and he worked in the Canadian Football League as well as the NHL and a lot of other places. And I met him in an FAU game at the old Lockhart Stadium and got to know him really, really well. And he got me some good guests too. I mean, Frank's one of the nice guys you ever meet. He just died like 1 or 2 years ago. But every time I could get him on, I did. And I would pick this man, Frank, because he was big in the Canadian Football League. He was big in the NHL and a lot of places. And he told me that at this point, this society's come down to every team needs to have a team psychologist. They just do. Because not only do you have to adapt to travel, but the pressure of being a professional is higher. And then you talk about the money. So when you put all of these together, what do you have? You have a collective situation where it's really snowballed into something that you're forced to be serious with. And we all know that depression could lead you to a lot of different areas. I can't think of a person on the planet that hasn't had a bout of it at some point. I know there were times in my life when things weren't going as good. I had to face depression as well, managed to get through it. And thanks to my wife, Candy, she's been a rock for me because, she's always been the person I've always needed to brainstorm ideas, or when I get over intense because of my work, she's always that calming effect. So whether you're the person you talk to, like my wife or my late grandma Sophie as well, she was another one. And another one I should also mention is my late father-in-law, Frederick Ebling, who I do want to dedicate this show to. He would have been 81 this year. So happy birthday, Dad. Your sense of humor was off the charts and probably made me crazier than I already am now. And that takes a lot to do. So love you, Dad, and from all of us here at Pundit's Pundit. So, but the main thing is you have to take all this simultaneously and seriously. And, again, I reiterate, mental health and sports. You have big money, but like you said, Dens, these guys are just because they're getting paid, they're human beings. So I'm happy for Ben Zobrist. He's a champion on and off the field.
Absolutely. And then we're about the 44-minute mark here. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go to our last topic here, and that is Patrick Mahomes has expressed that he seeks to explore team ownership in his post-playing career. This struck me last week, and I made the suggestion, of course, so this was mine, you guys, but he actually is invested already in the Formula One team Alpine Racing with teammate Travis Kelce. He's also a partial owner of the Kansas City Royals, of MLS is Sporting KC, the soccer team, the KC Current, which was actually founded by Brittany Mahomes. And he also is part owner of the Miami Pickleball Club. The moves that he has made and everything that he's invested in has been inspired partially by Tom Brady's investment moves as well. He currently is trying to buy stock in the Las Vegas Raiders. I think this is awesome because at some point in time, no matter how young you are, how amazing you are, you have to think ahead. Don't just think about the money right now, right? Because not thinking ahead is what's going to get you broke later on. Even as far as like in the NBA, right? I think the statistic says 65% of athletes are broke within 5 years of leaving the league, so, but no, as far as something like this, great for him. And let's pass it on to Jacob and get your thoughts about this. It looks like Patrick Mahomes is really, really looking out for his future.
Absolutely. And there's a reason I didn't go after Caleb Williams the way a lot of people did online for what he said. Yeah, a little crazy that he said he wanted ownership stake in the one that got him. And it's not going to happen now, especially after 2 straight losses. After everything, he's going to be probably dropped lower and, all that kind of stuff. But I'm happy he's thinking of things like this. I'm happy he's thinking of ownership, doing all that, because we have seen so many athletes. You said 65%. It's probably a little lower, but still not much. Mm-hmm. You got to realize the average time in his professional league is 3 years. 4 years is your the 4 years is your pension. So we're not thinking of the investments. We're not thinking of these things, but we are thinking about them more, thankfully, as far as the bigger ones. Look at Kevin Durant. Look at Austin Reeves has shoes in China now. Even like Austin Reeves, and he's like 14 points a game. You see my point? From the Lakers. He's got this. You've got, and then you had, even though I wasn't fond of what he invested with, you had Trevor Lawrence with crypto, taking most of his bonus in crypto. Didn't work out well, but it's an idea. And I'm not a fond of crypto, and I'm not fond of making these things. I like that somebody's thinking differently to try to make as much money, generational money. Kids, and it can be black, white, Asians, any of them. And the idea I think the whole thing with Caleb Williams is because of Messi getting his contract, and most of it, some of that was a piece of ownership. That's what we're going to see more contracts doing now. And I could see the Mahomes in the next. Remember, what has he been 6 years in the league now?
About 6 or 7, yeah.
I could see his next contract trying that. Ownership, like pieces of ownership. I can see this with people now. And it's like, there's so much competition to everything now. And I'm happy to see it, because maybe that 65% or 60% will be less, as far as people going broke. And then the young kids will start thinking this way as the time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The thing is you got the kids that idolize Patrick Mahomes. They're trying to idolize what he does on the field with the crazy throws and everything. Well, kids, how about this? Idolize what he's doing off the field, because it's going to help you out in the long run. As a matter of fact, I would idolize that more than what he does on the field.
Yeah.
Bob, swinging over to George and get your thoughts about what Patrick Mahomes is doing to secure his future.
Well, like Jacob said, this is very prominent now among many athletes. The important thing is you've got to realize, like you guys said, that the careers are so short, and they have to put together a financial plan and a future plan with their agents, with their loved ones, and obviously, in some cases, with the league itself that they're trying to get into with perhaps an ownership. There have been a lot of examples. We've talked before about this, with Michael Jordan and, and Derek Jeter, and here in Detroit, Chris Chelios has been involved with teams and restaurants and stuff. But I think that the important thing is that, favoritism is something I'm concerned about, only because, yes, he has a big name. Yes, he has deep pockets. But there's also the fact that, as an owner, you have a responsibility, number one, to the fans and to the community that you're representing. So what this means is, I would have a problem, and I'm just going to be honest with you, with a guy like Denny McClain's background. If he came and started owning the Toledo Mud Hens, or the top affiliate of the Detroit Tigers in Toledo, Ohio. I'm just being honest, because, not to say that you cannot make amends. Of course, I believe in that you can make amends. But your responsibility is so deep and is so tied to the community that you represent and the community that you're now buying into, so to speak, with the ownership. So that there's a big factor here that weighs on me, and that is the fact that this responsibility is taken seriously. Yes, you have the deep pockets. Yes, you have the money, but also the responsibility of that community that you work in, the community where you're landing your team in, and all the things that go with that. And this is what I like about the NFL, because the Detroit Lions are one of every team that does this. Basically, every Tuesday, they are out in the community. And I know that because one of the local sportscaster here, she does a story every Tuesday, practically, Jennifer Hammond, on Channel 2 and Fox in Detroit. And she'll show the players, mostly players, not so much coaches, but she shows what they're doing in the community. And that's so very important. So I think the teams themselves are setting an example because they want you to be involved in your community. And then for future growth, like you said, Mahomes, I applaud him. I mean, yeah, I'd like to keep the big names involved in the sports, or even venture into other sports. Soccer, for example, like you mentioned, or Michael Jordan. Well, he went and stayed with basketball, but Magic Johnson, I'm sorry, ventured into baseball. I think that's great. But again, that responsibility to the community, the responsibility and the financial commitment that they have is very, very important, I think.
It is. It is, absolutely. Thinking about your future at a young age, it also shows maturity as well. Mahomes is very involved in the Kansas City community and everything. So that right there, and it's supposed to kind of come with the territory, but still great nonetheless. And then lastly, Scott, to get your thoughts about this.
First of all, Patrick Mahomes, NFL money will be absolutely nothing compared to what he's going to earn off the field with all these ventures. That's all there is to it. You think about it, this guy is so smart. Okay, that for me, I wouldn't be surprised to see him own part of an NFL team, whether it's in London, you never know, or whether the Hunts are smart enough, because they're talking about football overseas. I don't know how many years it'll be out. That's one thing. Or maybe the Hunts will give him a piece of the action, maybe 10, 20%, because of what he's done in that community. But the one thing we can't lose sight of is this. These athletes are extremely competitive individuals. You talked about Michael Jordan. Well, guess what? Okay. This guy, I believe, is in NASCAR, isn't he? So when you talk about the fact that Michael Jordan may not be the owner of the Charlotte Hornets, he's up in NASCAR. You can get that at bargain basement prices compared to other sports. You really can. Soccer is another one. The MLS, good bargain if you can get it. So, to me, it's a shame that after 5-6 years, many of these guys are broke. But I'm going to tell you this, okay? I'm not going to limit it to just Mahomes. When I use LinkedIn to get guests, one of the criteria I look at for a guy that has gone out there and done well is what has he done after his career? And I've landed some pretty good fish out there. One of my biggest ones ever was Barry Foote. He's one guy, the former catcher for the Yankees and Expos. He was really, really good. Buddy Biancalana is another guy, the former shortstop for the Kansas City Royals, who helped them win the 85 championship World Series. So the list goes on and on. But when you talk about Patrick Mahomes already won 2 Super Bowl titles, one can only wonder how many more he's going to actually get anyways. That's what this is about. They're not guys like Kurt Schilling who've gone out there and tried every hustle on the planet and has gone broke and went broke because of his big mouth too. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes, who's a model citizen. He never gets in trouble anyways. And he's everything that sports needs. You don't have enough good stories in Patrick Mahomes. You just don't. So I guess in conclusion with Mahomes, okay, before we wrap it up tonight, this guy here is a genius in so many different ways, but he's a role model on and off the field. We just don't have enough of those types of individuals anymore. Go get him, Patrick. I've always really enjoyed rooting for good people, and Patrick Mahomes, you're very difficult to root against.
And
Exactly.
I'll say this real fast, Denzel, then we got to get moving. We talk about all of these 80s shows like the Wonder Years and all those things that you had a reset on. You want to know who would be a character you can do a reset on? You were talking about you're hoping that the young kids would follow Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
You could do this in a comedy aspect. Alex P. Keaton's Family Ties.
Okay.
Yeah, remember, it doesn't have to be the philosophical thing. Doesn't have to be that. It could be the money and success and dressing up, and putting on a tie and doing all that kind of thing and being different from his family. It could be that. But I'm saying that's what I'm talking about. Get that. It's like everybody wants to do the throws on the field, but he's going to do it off it. Let's have that kind of mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said,
What'd
I'm
you
sorry,
say?
George, go ahead.
No, I could agree with that. That kind of mindset is good. I agree.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, with that being said, we are at about the 5-minute mark, so I would like to turn it over to the Dean of South Florida Tribune University himself, Mr. Scott, Motor City Madmouth. Take it away.
Thank you, Denzel. Appreciate it. You guys done a really good job keeping time into consideration. Our goal is to make sure that we get it out to you in a prompt, efficient way. Everybody's done well. But that said, I'll go ahead first and let everybody know one more time that Pundit's Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You want to advertise cost efficiently? No problem. Give me a call, 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. I'm talking faster than NASCARs and IndyCars, but so be it. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. I have a book coming out real soon. We'll get that on to you as we get closer, but it's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders like us tonight. All right. Turn it over to George Eichhorn. They have about a minute to go for everybody to get their stuff out there.
Scott's got a book. I got a book. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And there's a link if you'd like to purchase the book, a link at the end of my column. I write for Scott and Candy at the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune banner. And my current Red Wing story is there, and I'm going to get a Piston one in very soon. Hey, listen, you can also follow me in many of these programs that I'm on. Inside the Pigskin, 108 Stitches, Sports Exchange, Pundit's Pundit, wonderful program. Glad to be part of the team here. Reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com or on LinkedIn under my name, or you can go on Twitter, known as X, at SandGSports99. Thank you.
All right, Denzel.
Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Nell 13 on X, NELINEL13. Denzel Sniper, Denzel Snipes on Facebook, Gauntlet, Confidential, Pundit's Pundit. You name it, Top Rope Talk on Mondays. As you can see, the Gauntlet Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all know where to find me.
All right, Pundits, Cliff Notes version.
All the shows that we see on the South Florida Tribune and the Sideline Sports. Jake the Pundit on the Twitter. I'm not going to call it X. Jake the Pundit on Instagram. Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok. I am on Twitch as Jake the Pundit, and I've got a bunch of. I'm on Patreon. I am on Ricochet. I'm on the Substack. I write, and I also write for the South Florida Tribune. I'll get one in tomorrow.
All right, very good. All right, well, that concludes this edition of Pundit's Pundit. Hope you enjoyed this show. Coming up afterwards, we have Fire Up with myself, George Eichhorn, Ralph Williams, Candy Ebling, and Jeremy Ballrick coming up. So meanwhile, thank you very much for joining us. We are out until our next episode. Good night, everybody.